Hey guys and gals, it's Nancy and Ritter, the girl in back of your screen, and you're watching Sit Down by the Fire with Aaron.
Why, hello, everybody. This is Eric Girthaler, host of the podcast Sit Down by the Fire. I'm here with my next special guest. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Olga Turka, and I am a costume and production designer.
But yeah, thank you so much for sharing that, and thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be here.
Oh, it's an honor to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, certainly, of course, anytime. So how about that you tell my audience, so what exactly got you started on your journey?
So it's very interesting because I was always sort of a bookworm and I was in my studies, but I was always obsessed with wardrobe. I would cut out magazine editorials in the 90s and collages as a kid. And I never really understood what I was doing at that time, but I think now in retrospect, I realize I was mood boarding, which is something I do every day now. And I even went to college for economics. Like I really wasn't pursuing anything creative in any way, but I was always the person that people came to for Halloween costumes or try help with their outfits. So after I graduated from Rutgers, I went to FIT for 2 years, studying wardrobe styling and things just for fulfillment. And there was a class there that was like script analysis. So they would give you a script and ask you to come up what the world would look like, what the idiosyncrasies of the characters would be, and just what somebody's room would look like. I just thought it was the most fascinating thing. So after I graduated from FIT, I went on to do music videos, which segued into editorial work, commercials, and slowly trickled into short films, feature films, and such.
And yeah, and as the saying goes, the rest is history.
Yeah, the rest is history. It's been quite a scenic journey, but I am obsessed with every little bit of it.
Yeah, which, and I mean, if you are going to be a part of it, I mean, it would make sense for you to be obsessed, because if you're not obsessed with it, then, and then why even invest your time into it?
Agreed. I think, just in general, we are kind of conditioned to do things to make a living or to pay bills. But I think
Yep.
every one of us walking around has some sort of innate like thing they've always wanted to do, or I feel like even when we're paying the bills and things, we could always like slowly pursue these things in our spare time, just to because I feel like it's why you're here.
Oh yeah, Cer- certainly so, and I mean, those bills just can't pay for themselves, right?
Oh no, I mean it's part of adult and human responsibility, of course. Like I for years, I graduated FIT when the stock market crashed in 2008. So there wasn't really paying work for what I do. And what I would do is I bartended for like 15 years. And then in my spare time would get together with a group of collaborators and create editorial work to build my portfolio, things like that. So like, even when the conditions were horrible, I still found ways to treat it as an important thing to do. So
Yeah. It's funny about how you mentioned being a bartender, and even like a waitress, because just by coincidence, I did research on David Howard Thornton, and and I mean, yeah, and then before he did Terrifier, he was a teacher, and then after being a teacher, he also did that too. And so, and so just knowing that, that both of you are associated with the Terrifier movies, I just find that a pretty big coincidence.
oh yeah, I think it's also part of like the New York area experience, especially when you're trying to pay rent and things, is being in the service industry. I grew up in the service industry as well, so I just have such a love for it. But as an actor for David, it's also like the best people watching. And for me, as a costume and set designer, I always am having conversations with all walks of life. So this always helps me develop characters, develop, I remember little details of some conversation I've had. Sorry, there's um, and all that helps me build characters. So
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, not only is it the actor or the actress, well, like who makes said character with their performance, but yeah, and I mean, their costume, but I mean, and their costume certainly does too. And I mean, going to Halloween, just with that costume, especially with that mask, like
yes,
a lot of people definitely will agree that that's one of the things that made Halloween what it is now.
absolutely.
Yeah, and so so from my research, you were not involved with the original Terrifier, but you were involved with all of the movies afterwards.
Correct. I was brought on to Terrifier 2 by a dear friend who's a special effects artist, Anthony Giordano. I was introduced to Damien because he was looking for a costume designer. And I sort of, I read the script, I watched the original Terrifier, and my jaw fell on the floor. So, because the script for Terrifier 2 was extremely ambitious, especially for the budget. And when I watched the original Terrifier, my mom wanted to watch with me, so we watched it. We were both screaming so loud, like I was worried that the neighbors were going to call the police. So, I've always been into the sort of macabre, Tim Burton, gothic, and some like horror films that really stood out to me were like classic films or like psychological, like The Shining and Silence of the Lambs. But I've never seen this level of gore before. So I was just like, wow. And I always tell this story because I find it really funny. I originally declined the job twice. It was more like budget issues and things like that. But I'm very glad that Damien called the third time, and we worked something out that and then that was the wildest door I've ever been through. Like a crash course in gore and horror film making. And, it was amazing and very grueling, but amazing.
Yeah, and that's actually rather interesting that you originally said no to it.
Mhm.
But yeah, and I mean, I can imagine, especially now that Terrifier 3 is the highest grossing unrated movie of all time, I can imagine that you probably are really glad that you two, I can imagine that you two are really glad that you were able to figure something out.
Yeah, yeah, of course. I'm very happy for Damien because, like, what people don't realize because they only see these three films, but he created this character like 16 years ago or something. And I can't even imagine what it's like to be him and just keep at it and keep sticking to his guns. Like I was saying, like you always, even if you're doing other odd jobs, like he, I think, delivered flowers for a while or something, and he would always be writing scripts and creating films and short films. So if you stick with it, which he did for 16 years, look what we were able to accomplish. So it's really a testimony to like tenacity and like him really just knowing that this was something special. So it really was an honor to help flesh out the world with him and create these other like supporting characters, and lead. It just creating this world was one of the best canvases I could have ever asked for. So
Yeah, and yeah, and yeah, and from what I heard, Damien first thought of the idea of Art the Clown in 2006. I mean, crazy to imagine that was almost 20 years ago now. And yeah, I mean, talk about like having perseverance, after all that time, because I can imagine that a lot of people out there just would have said at that point, after that many years, a lot of people just would have gone, oh, is it really even worth it at that point? But Damien's story definitely should be a testament to all these people that that really truly the only time when you fail is when you stop putting in the effort. And I believe that Damien said that um, said that he felt like that the 2010s really lacked a horror icon.
Mhm.
And I mean, yeah, I mean, in the 2000s, you did have Jigsaw from the Saw movies, but yeah, I mean, honestly, in the 2010s, I mean, I guess you could argue that the art did, the art was that of the 2010s because Terrifier came out in 2016, but it really wasn't until Terrifier 2 and especially 3 like was when art became like what he is now, especially when you go to Spirit Halloween and then you will see all this merchandise like of art, the clowns. So I guess you could maybe argue technically art is 2020s icon.
Absolutely. Like never never would I have thought, or did it even cross my mind, that when we were in the trenches of the war of art, as I call it, in the Terrifier 2, there was only 9 of us on the core crew. It was very, very grueling, but all of our heart and souls were in it. So I think that like comes across on screen very much so, and it just shows that even with like very little, you can make something truly special. And the fact that it resonates with fans so much, that people enjoy it so much, you really like, even as exhausted as we were, like it really makes all the hard work worth it. And then now there's Spirit Halloween and Universal Studios and the Horror Nights. It's just a really beautiful journey, and I'm really happy for him and the casting crew.
Yeah, certainly so. And especially considering that the original Terrifier was made for like what, 35 or so $1,000. And I mean, compared to Hollywood standards, that is nothing. And what he would create with that low of a budget. And yeah, you mentioned that your jaw dropped. I mean, mine did too, especially at that infamous hacksaw scene. And Terrifier 2 definitely topped it with the bedroom scene.
Yes, which was a lot of fun to make. It's I've learned to I've learned so much about the horror genre just in making his films. As much I've worked with FX artists before, but the amount of work that goes into molding bodies and creating these like stunts where weapons are used and all these things, just seeing all the little details and how it comes to life and how many people are putting artistry onto things, it's just like wow.
Yeah, and from what I saw, Damien did all of the special effects for the first 2 movies, but then when the third movie came around, he had enough of a budget like where he could hire somebody else for it. And yeah, I mean, knowing that bedroom scene, knowing that he did all that, and yeah, like a year ago or so, like on Halloween, me and a friend watched Terrifier 2. When it got to the bedroom scene, especially at the part like well, he grabs her head and then that knife goes through her face and even through her eye. I'll never forget the look on my friend's face.
Oh, and it's so different creating it on set and then seeing it on the big screen, because when we're making it, we are laughing. We are, it's we're tired. It's like 20 hours or straight or something of like preparation versus shooting versus wrapping it up. Like, and then you see it on the screen, and now it has the editing and the sound. The sound makes such a huge difference. It's so creepy. Really like feels very visceral for the audience members. So even us who were there, once we're seeing it in the chair, it's like a completely different experience. Like we're scared because you're hearing all these sound design now and everything.
Yeah, and yeah, and so and therefore, when you go back and rewatch Terrifier 2, like especially during that bedroom scene, knowing that you were actually there on set, would you say that it makes the viewing experience a much? Would you say that it's a different experience?
Oh yeah, like because I know all the behind the scenes of everything going on, which actually grew up very terrified of horror films. I didn't like seeing people in pain or things like that, and now working on them has made me have this newfound appreciation for everything. And now when I watch them, I know like, oh man, that must have taken so much work to create, and so I just have such a love of the horror community and the horror film community. Um, but yeah, I do think I look at films in general differently, but definitely horror films and our films, yeah, because the sound design really does so much. We don't hear any of those sounds when we're creating the film. So
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that because I actually was going to ask you if you ever were a fan of horror movies, but you already answered it.
no, so like I grew up like loving like Tim Burton and things like that. I loved Beetlejuice. That was like my number one crush growing up. Um, and I love Silence of the Lambs, The Shining. I grew up in the '90s and such. So I am a huge, huge fan of especially classic films. So a lot of Hitchcock, Psycho, whatever happened to Baby Jane, those kind of like when I love seeing the artistry when there wasn't all this technology involved, especially. Like I love practical effects and camera tricks to create things. So yeah, I am a huge lover of all film. And I'm so glad that my journey has brought me to a love of horror film now.
Yeah, and the original Psycho definitely was a very revolutionary movie. It's because at that time, toilets actually were seen in a movie before, and I mean nowadays it sounds silly, but but at that time though, it definitely was crossing into new territories, and yeah, and then all these years later, Terrifier would do the same thing. Terrifier definitely crossed, boundaries like that never were crossed before, and yeah, and yeah, and so I guess it all just circles back, right?
Yeah, I know that Damien tries to like sort of toe the line without crossing it so much, but he definitely crossed it, in my opinion, in a few areas. But that is, I feel like audiences after a while are just like sort of really hungry for something new like that and a new innovative view on things. So I'm very glad that he stuck to his gut feelings and created what he truly wanted to create as a horror film lover himself.
Yeah, and Terrifier 2 actually came out right around the perfect time. Is because at that time, like, was when Halloween Ends got released, and it's pretty clear that a lot of the fans were very much dissatisfied with that movie. And then Terrifier 2 like was released at around the same time. And then people were saying, yeah, if you're gonna go watch a horror sequel in theater, Terrifier 2 definitely is the much better one. And honestly, I was at the point like where there were so many killer clown horror movies where I felt like that you just couldn't do anything new with it. But then along came Terrifier, and it proved me wrong. But what I think helped Terrifier, to separate from all the other killer clown horror movies, was knowing that Art the Clown did not talk, and knowing that every other killer clown and every other horror movie that they're going to be all colorful, while when art isn't, and especially knowing with how much that they push the boundaries, like on how violent that it is.
Yeah, definitely. It it's like read some quote or something. You know, someone can do the same thing as you, but like not quite like you. So like, you know, he could have given up when he heard that there's so many killer clowns. Like, why would you do that again? He's like, not like my killer clown. So,
Yeah.
uh, and that's so true. It is a new take on something that has been done before, but in its own unique fashion. Like I don't think I think he's in a world all his own with this and all the kills and with the I know that sometimes there's this comparison, like, oh, go see, you know, but we love Halloween also. Like, you know, the original Halloween was such a incredible like precursor and paved the way for so many things. So, you know, I like to think it's not a competition, but it's always an honor to hear those things where they prefer our film to others or anything like that.
And I actually just thought of this. It's not the first time within the horror genre where the opposite is done because during the 80s, you saw Friday the 13th,
Mhm.
Halloween, and so on and so forth, where it was a maxed killer like who didn't talk and then people were saying, oh well, you know, that's been done. You know, you can't really do anything else with that genre. But then along came A Nightmare on Elm Street, which also did the opposite, where the killer in that actually did talk and he didn't wear a mask. And yeah, and then all these years later, Terrifier pretty much would do the exact same thing. And so then that right there tells me, that when something has been done, all you really got to do is just do the opposite.
Hmm. I would say so. And then like I think it's also like a fun challenge. You know, you see all these versions, but how can I make it different? You know, so it's always a great challenge creatively too to do something that's not been done before, even if it's been done before. So
Yeah, exactly. And so yeah, and so I definitely do very vividly recall seeing on Facebook back when Terrifier 2 came out that there were people passing out in the theaters. But yeah, was that all just a marketing ploy, or would you know if that actually did happen?
that was absolutely actually happened because we had no budget. We didn't have a marketing team. There was no such thing. This was all like word of mouth or you know, like when we started hearing those things, it was like, wow. Because immediately I was thinking of, you know, John Waters' Pink Flamingos or The Exorcist, who had this kind of, you know, reaction in theaters, which is such an honor because it makes all the hard work worth it. But again, like, you know, Terrifier 2 as it was a bigger budget, but it didn't have a huge budget. So even um hair, makeup, and FX artist Jackie Hughes was helping me build like Sienna's room and such. And we brought stuff from our friends' houses, our house, like to make that happen. Like, you know, there was definitely no budget for marketing. We barely had a budget to make a room. So
Yeah. Well, hey, and I mean, it's definitely good to know that you guys were resourceful, like with the budget that you guys did have, and and yeah, and honestly, after seeing Terrifier 2 myself, I'm really not surprised knowing that that actually did happen.
yeah. I mean, I get it now too. Seriously, after all the editing and sound design and you know it all coming together, and you know, Damien doesn't pull away the camera when most would. He goes in further. So
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And then that right there actually helped him to that, and then that right there actually helped him to set his movies apart, well, like from a lot of other people. And I mean, I do get why a lot of other people would do that with trying to have you use your imagination, but for Damien though, doing the opposite definitely did come in handy.
Yeah, definitely. I would say so.
Certainly, and so and so and so and so if you're allowed to talk about this or not, I mean, if you're not, then that's fine. But a Terrifier 4 was announced. Are you going to be involved?
Um, I don't know much about it. I know as much as you do right now, and all I know is he's still finishing up the script. So we'll see.
All right. Well, I guess when the movie comes out, I guess that we'll find out then, right?
Yes, yes. Stay tuned. But yeah, it's exciting that there's a fourth one coming up.
Oh, it is. Yeah, and I have heard some rumors saying that, well, since that Terrifier 3 switched it from Halloween to Christmas, which I definitely think that that was a really brilliant thing for Damien to do, just to keep things fresh.
Mm-hmm.
So I've heard rumors that, well, the fourth movie might take place on Valentine's Day, or it might take place on Thanksgiving, or some other holiday. I mean, Thanksgiving would be cool, but I personally think that it would be even cooler if it was on Valentine's Day, especially considering that there have been horror films about Valentine's Day before.
Yes. So there's been definitely. I've said it in an interview. Valentine's Day would be fun because I always think about the first Terrifier where he gives the ring in the pizza shop, like he's a romantic of sorts, and then.
Mhm.
Easter Bunny would be fun. It's another character that doesn't speak. There's all these weird little things with that. But I don't know if it's going to be a holiday related thing. But we'll see what's up in Damien's brain.
Exactly. And I even have seen a few fan posters like of it actually taking place in space.
Oh, that's hilarious.
I mean, if it goes that way, then more props to Damien. But I personally wouldn't because a lot of people say that that's where horror franchises. I mean, that's where they go when they run their course. Well, like such as when it happened to Friday the 13th, and it happened to Leprechaun and a few others. But yeah, I mean, I guess it would be interesting if Damien went down that route, but I don't know. I just don't think that Damien will.
I don't think so either. But who's to say? We don't know. He's keeping it under lock and key for now. So we'll see.
Exactly, yeah. And so well, with all that said, knowing that there was that, knowing that Art had that really bloody Santa beard on, say if he does go with the Valentine's Day thing, I could definitely see him I could definitely see Art using a Valentine's Day heart as a weapon. Or I just thought of this: if it goes with Easter, I definitely can't imagine Art having wearing a really really bloody Easter bunny costume.
Oh, me too. I could see that, and I could also see it if that was the case to be a personal nightmare on set. But it would just be such an iconic image. I think I don't know. Maybe Damien wants to ruin all holidays for all of us.
Yeah, and I mean, knowing that he did that to Christmas, and I mean, there have been plenty of Christmas horror movies, and so Easter, I really can't think of a whole lot of Easter horror movies, and so yeah. So now that I think about it, I think it might be a cooler idea if he went with Easter.
Okay. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Exactly, yeah. And then say if he does go with Easter for Terrifier 4, I guess for Terrifier 5, if he ever decides to go down that route, although I know he said that Terrifier 4 is going to be the last one, but hey, but they said that about Friday the 13th Part 4, and they said that about Freddy's Dead, the Final Nightmare. So, yeah, the final chapter.
Yeah. I guess also like it's hard to say sometimes because once you're filming, maybe you think of new ideas and things like that. So I'm sure if it made sense for the story to continue on, he will. But also, I'm sure there's other creative things he'd like to accomplish in his life, outside the Terrifier realm as well.
Right, yeah. And I even have heard some people say that Damien actually should direct the next Friday the 13th. And yeah, and I mean, I definitely can see that.
Yeah, I could see it as well.
Yeah, and I mean, knowing what he did with all of the gore effects in Terrifier, I would love to see what he would do with Friday the 13th.
Oh yes, and he really knows a thing or two about that. So, and like what audiences are sort of craving in that realm. So, I'm sure he would be the perfect person for that.
Oh, yeah, certainly. Well, anyways, that about does her. Are there any last words that you would want to say to my audience?
Well, thank you for having me. Thank you for listening, and happy Halloween.
Yeah, yeah, you as well. And yeah, and if everybody watching this, if everybody can go give Olga a follow on her Instagram page, it would be very much so appreciated.
Oh, I look forward to having new friends. So, thank you very much.
Certainly, you have a fantastic day.
You too.